Welcome, ladies, to the Real Estate InvestHER Show, providing inspiration, strategies, and insight to empower women investors to live balanced and financially free lives. Now, here are your co-hosts, Liz and Andressa.
Today we have two powerhouse ladies from the Chicago area on our show, Mary Derman and Bryn McNicholas. These ladies are making huge things happen as both realtors and investors. Both Mary and Bryn were teachers prior to joining forces. And in their 2 years as partners, they've completed over 15 fix and flips. They've worked on over 100 real estate transactions and have a growing rental portfolio. On today's episode, we discuss a lot with Mary and Bryn, which includes how to build a powerful partnership, which qualities to actually avoid in partnerships, the power of Airbnb rentals, and the number one key to sustaining a lasting partnership. Welcome back, ladies. This is Liz.
And this is Andressa.
Back with you on the Real Estate InvestHER Show. Thanks for being on our show today. And we have Mary and Bryn. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we're excited to jump into your story. They have a really, really cool background and how they got started and what they're up to today. But just like we like to do, just kind of get connected with everyone on our listeners and the ladies out there. Andressa, what's happening for you? What's new and exciting?
Well, we just came out of a podcast movement here in Philadelphia where, I don't know, there's so many people there, like more than 5,000 people, I guess, talking about podcasts. And believe me, we got a ton of content there. But one of the most curious things that I came across was that people don't really understand what a podcast is and how they can have access to that. When they see subscribe, they also think that that's paid. So it's just like a stereotype. And Google just launched in June their Google Podcast app. So the guy was explaining how it works and everything else. I downloaded, and I'm telling you, it's pretty straightforward. I highly recommend. So you basically download the app and you select the podcast that you want, and it organized for you. So if you have something to do and you got to stop listening to it, it pauses and you can pick up when you left off at any time. It really organized things for me. So I like very, systematic things.
Yeah, that was really
super
cool.
helpful. Yeah,
that was super helpful. And the Google rep that was there, I mean, didn't he look like Mark Zuckerberg?
He did, right? Sneakers and all that.
But regardless, I really encourage the ladies listening to this, share obviously our podcast, of course, but other podcasts that you love with the people in your life. We all kind of take it for granted that everyone listens to podcasts and they don't. So just definitely encourage other people in your life to listen to any podcasts that speak to them, because it's a really such a great forum for entertainment and education. So without further ado, I want to introduce Mary and Bryn to our show. Welcome again. As we jump into the show, you both have, everyone I feel like we interview has such amazing stories, but please share with us, how you got to this real estate investing game, so to speak, or, business. And you both have just unique backgrounds. So please share with us and the listeners a little bit.
Great. So my name is Bryn McNicholas, and I actually grew up mostly in Ohio. Just place my dad got a job at one point, and I come from a very large family. So that has shaped my life a lot. My parents had 3 children, wanted a 4th child, and ended up with quadruplets. And I am one of those quadruplets.
Oh, man.
Yes.
Wow.
3 boys, and then the quads are 2 and 2. So I have 5 brothers and a sister, and very close with all of them. And we're growing on to grandbaby number 6 right now. So it's been an exciting time in our lives, and followed my family roots back to Chicagoland, which is where my parents met and grew up, and started continued a teaching career here that lasted about 6 years before I got into real estate. Current times, I'm excited to be getting married in about 5 weeks.
Congratulations.
Thank you to my fiance, Ryan. And actually, Mary's going to be standing right next to me that day.
That's wonderful.
Yes. But I was a teacher and just saw the writing on the wall, especially in the state of Illinois, that there was no security there. I have 2 loving parents I'd love to get back to one day, and being in Chicago, and living as a teacher was just not a way to build any type of financial security for now or the future. So kept bugging my brother, who had gotten into real estate investing, and he actually started teaching it, and I kept bugging him until he finally let me be a part of it, and joined an education platform. We happened to join the education platform called Fortune Builders. That kind of led me to meeting Mary.
Yeah. So it's interesting because we have very similar backgrounds, career-wise, but people always think we met as teachers, but we didn't. It was just ends up being a coincidence. I have a big family, but I'm not a quadruplet, nor do I have 6 brothers and sisters. But nonetheless, my previous life, I usually say I was a teacher for 9 years. And in 2013, when I was still teaching, I said, hey, I'm going to get my real estate license because I was always intrigued by it, and I just liked the idea of finding ways to make more money for myself and my family. So I got my real estate license, and I was just doing traditional real estate and not really investing yet, just kind of dabbling with it. I had my first son. I was balancing a teaching career. And then my uncle, who owns a restaurant franchise, came to my sister and I and said, hey, do you want to open one of the chains that Lauren and I had also worked at when we were 15 and 18. And as if we didn't have enough on our plates as it is, we were sure, let's add a restaurant. So in 2014, started the restaurant and had its growing pains and its struggles. So at the end of the 14-15 school year, I had just given birth to our second child, just finishing off the first year with a restaurant. Real estate is now somewhere deep in the background due to every other life situation happening. The restaurant's going through some struggles, and I realized, oh my goodness, I have to stop teaching. I'm 9 years in, have my master's, loving what I'm doing, but I just need to abruptly stop. So, fast forward just a little bit, I'm here flipping burgers, and I'm like, what am I doing? How am I even going to provide for my family? I need to go back to this real estate license I have and find a way for that to generate some income for my family while still running this restaurant. So I go back in and I'm starting to do some traditional sales, but then I go to this education seminar, Fortune Builders, and I learn about wow, how I can maybe take a little bit more control of our financial path, as well as dig deeper into real estate. So joined and started investing, and then started working with clients who are investors. And, I started my own projects and then started working with others to help theirs. And that's how we met. We met, yes, through Fortune Builders, but the real relationship started was when Brynn reached out to me to start representing her as an agent. And it just organically just formed into a partnership. None of it was never our original intention. It was never anything that we had forced. We just realized being together. I think some of our teacher background and just how we operated helped. But she had strengths that I didn't have and vice versa. And just, we let each other shine where we can shine and pick up where we need to pick up. And it's still that way today. And just last year we did 6 rehabs together and 2 wholesales. And this year in 2018, we're getting ready to purchase our 9th project. We have 3 unit rentals and getting ready to do our second Airbnb. So, we've definitely exponentially grown since 2016.
Yeah, our anniversary is coming up. Yeah. I have a Facebook message I can refer back to where I messaged Mary and was like, hey, I see
she asked me out on a date.
Yeah, no. She made me come to her.
So I just want to pick back on what you guys saying about even though you guys have a similar background, but your personalities are different and your strengths and weaknesses are different. So to clarify that, can you give examples of things that you see a very good fit, okay, I have this strength and this is perfect for this area in real estate?
Brynn is really great at marketing. She's really great at networking. You could put her in a room and she's going to make a friend. And I'm a little bit of a shy turtle sometimes. So she just shines in that regard. She just is such a great networker and such a great marketer. And the fact that it's hey, she can own that. And that sometimes it makes me awkward or I'm not confident in my marketing skills, print marketing, online marketing. It's great. She could just own it. And that part of our business is taken care of for sure.
Well, Mary is she's like our real estate rock because she had the experience as a license. By the time I met Mary, she's like, you're going to take your test. I had taken my class, never took my license test. So she's gotten the years of experience in real estate on me. And she's really good about the just contractual side of things, as well as helping push our clients into projects, properties, etc.
So yeah, I really appreciate what you guys are saying about the transition you made. I mean, a lot of women that we talk to too will often say, I want to quit my job, but it's a shift. It's a transition. It's not just like, jump in and start making millions, which obviously some of these gurus will have you think that's how it happens. And so I'm curious, you're mentioning about your strengths. And I really, really appreciate that you guys are saying that you actually know what each other's strengths are, because a lot of partners, I think that's one of the reasons partnerships don't work, right? Is they just don't get or appreciate or utilize what the other person's bringing. So clearly you have identified it and you're actually utilizing it and leveraging it, which is the key, which is definitely the key.
Right.
How did you know that about each other, or did you even know that about yourself? Like you were going in, transitioning from a teacher, Mary, and you knew that you were more of a shy person, but really good with numbers? I'm sure that's probably a little more you, right? A little more, I don't know. I'm just reading you, but I have worked with a personality assessment. So I don't know if that's accurate for you, but was that something that's the way you were in teaching?
That's a really interesting question, because I feel like when we first started together, I in my head, when I would go home and work, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I have to like always be on and doing, because I can't let Bryn down now. Like, of course, it's always about my family, myself, but now I have this legit full-time accountability partner, and I need to make sure I'm on my game. And I think it's not like, oh, I knew that about her or it was immediate. I think I'm going to continue to say this, like everything has been super organic and very, very authentically just like figured out and evolved. Mm-hmm. So it's not like I said, we sat down one day and said, okay, what are you good at? Well, this is what I'm good at. We just observed these things with each other and just let each other do it.
The contacts, the network of raising money for our business, more comes from my leads or the leads that I had featured in Mary. Of course, at this point, Mary and I are selling everything. While the retail leads for buyers and sellers, when we just work as a licensed agent, come from Mary. So again, it's just random parts that we're both bringing to the equation.
Yeah.
And it's all organic, and it was such a beautiful relationship. And I always have, my family's everywhere, so I have business partner guilt all the time, where Mary's family's here and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm gone again, or I'm here again, and then throwing a wedding just to make life even more complicated. What it comes down to, though, is that we're both willing to work hard, and we're willing to work hard for each other. And together, we make sure there aren't any gaps. And that means sometimes jumping over these lines, but it's having two people always focused on our business and making sure it's always being fully addressed.
And I think that's the other, you mentioned something that made me think of this, is that I don't ever make her feel bad about going away, and she doesn't ever make me feel bad about something. Like if 1 week or whatever is like one of us is more heavy than the next, it is just what it is. Like we don't even question it. We just pick it up and go. Because I know, like, for example, when I had Annie, our third child, it was like, I was out of commission. I didn't even think twice, and I just knew the business was running. And the same thing is for Bryn when she's, going to feel that way when she goes to Japan in November. She's not even going to think twice, because she knows that the show is going to continue to go on. And we don't make each other feel bad about it. Yes, we beat ourselves up personally, but it's never like a beat up together by any means.
Yeah, I heard it once. I don't know if you've ever heard this. I think it was from Stephen Covey, possibly, but you read all these different books. You don't even know where you get these things from half the time. But I think it was Stephen Covey. But he talked about an emotional bank account. I mean, we all would appreciate this, and the ladies listening, because we're in real estate, so there's money definitely involved. But there's an emotional bank account, and he talked about, I think it was Covey, that you make deposits and withdrawals. And as you guys are specifically talking, you're talking about like making those deposits early on, and then you make a withdrawal. I go to Japan, I'm getting married, I have the third kid, you're going away, I'm going away. You're withdrawing, but you've made deposits, right? So what his whole point, and I think you two are such a beautiful example of, and I think about partnerships, Andressa and I, when relationships don't work and partnerships don't work, people are withdrawing and there's no money in the account, right? So you're in default. You keep withdrawing. I mean, think about any relationship, any of us, it just hasn't worked. Romantic, business, it's people are withdrawing and there's nothing in the account to withdraw from. So I just think as you're talking, that example popped in my head, because you're doing it beautifully. We may not be saying I'm making a deposit today and you're making a withdrawal. Obviously, we don't talk like that unless you're really wacky. But you really are. That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
So, but no, I think that's amazing. And as you say, the organic, authentic, and evolved. You hired one another, right? So Bryn, you hired Mary, correct?
So
It started that way.
She was
Started that
supposed
way.
to be an agent. We looked at properties that had an investment under contract, and then got cold feet. And that's where that is the beauty of our relationship, is that we've had other partners, a brother of me, a sister-in-law here, husband, but the confidence we have together is just so much more than apart. People say, oh, your 1 + 1 is 4. And I think that's so true. So I got cold feet to do the one that I was supposed to do with Mary as my agent, which is probably a beautiful thing because it could have led us in a different path and not to where we are together. And we instead looked at this one project together. Mary remembers the day, I guess, the proposal, I guess we'll call it, where it was like, hey, let's try looking at this together. What would that deal look like together versus apart? So we never did anything as
Separate.
agent investor, and instead it became partners.
Yeah. And actually the one thing I didn't point out is my first 2 projects were financially not a huge success by any means, lost a lot of money. But successes in other regards, right? Because it taught me invaluable lessons. And you actually mentioned one of the things that attracted her to me was I told her hey, I decided on halfway through my second project with the same contractor, I was getting kind of screwed over and I finally spoke up about it and I fired him. And took over, and my husband and I just figured it out, and we finished the project. It is pretty much in budget and sold in 4 days. So in a lot of ways it was a success still. And she's like, oh, I'm going through contractor issues as well.
And never had the courage enough to fire the contractor that I should have.
So then, but to go a step further, what really brought us together was the bad contractor on my first 2 projects. She was starting to talk to him.
Oh, God.
And I was like, oh, okay. And I was gingerly starting to I didn't want to overstep my bounds. I wanted to have her as a client. So I was like, oh, okay, tell me more about that. Oh, so she gave you this deal and told you it was this ARV? Interesting. Why don't you consider this data? So she very quickly realized, hold on, I'm going to get caught in that same trap that you just got out of. Maybe I will dump those 2 people and start working with you.
That's so great. You guys had those raw conversations, because sometimes you just have a number. Oh, I did X amount of flips or whatever that is. And the quantity, I always tell people, don't focus on the quantity, focus on the lessons, because you might get so many lessons in your first, second one, and third one. And I'm so glad you mentioned about the success, because I like to learn the lessons as quick as I can. If that cost is on my pocket now, great. Got a flooded basement. Okay, learn that lesson. So I don't need to learn that lesson when I have 5 basements, to run that. So that is so great. For the ladies that are listening to us right now, and they know that they want to take their business to the next level, and they can't do it everything on their own because they are also running a household, they have kids and everything else, right? So they're looking to partner up with somebody. But they don't know if they're doing the right thing or the wrong thing. They just have that gut feeling that it is, pushing them out of the comfort zone. Is there anything that you guys could tell them to look for? Oh, look at this, or just go with your gut. What would you guys tell her?
First and foremost, you want to look for someone who's willing to work just as hard as you. If we both didn't work hard, that would create a problem. You look at my life, I don't have any children. Mary has 3. But she tells me she's pregnant, and there's no fear that my business is going to change just because Mary's having a baby. So you got to match it with someone who's willing to put it all into your business with you, or that will immediately create problems.
I agree with that. I always try to I always pretend like I have a Marcus Lemonis or a Mark Cuban on my shoulder, and realize if you're not living your business every day, and it's not saying neglecting my kids or neglecting my, my spouse or anything like that. But when I'm dialed in, I'm dialed in. And when I have to be with my kids, I'm with my kids. And when they go to bed, I'm dialed back in again, because I have to be live and breathe this business. And Bryn's the same way. I don't know the answer to that, to be honest with you. I think that's like the $64,000 question, which is what you're asking. Mm-hmm. And I think it's even really hard for Bryn and I to say it, because we didn't force it. We didn't go out there saying we need a partner. It just kind of happened. Sure. But I guess if we had to do something, you have to just be honest with yourself. You have to be very, very vulnerable and honest with yourself and your own strengths and weaknesses before you can worry about what somebody else has.
And I think a huge lesson for us, because we actually had some partnerships that just didn't turn successful with us, is you shouldn't dive in right away. And we didn't. We did JV partnerships through paperwork and our attorneys with our 2 entities. And we actually didn't form an entity until early this year. Yeah. So one that's finally just us, and we can stop with the whole JV agreements. So we took it slow. Yeah. But we found out very quickly that there was a trust factor there. We worked up to get that first project together, and then it just continued to flow. We got the next project. So we put the work in at the beginning, which was huge for us. We took in like October of 16 and November, just building to that first deal. And then it didn't fall off once we got the deal. The work continued. Mm-hmm. Mary had me get my license. So now we're growing, but we're growing in a systematic way, and we're growing together.
Yeah. And I love what you're saying, because so many people, first off, they don't surround themselves with like-minded people. So it's hard to find people who share your own same values if you're hanging out with people who will bring you down. I mean, it's like standing in a room of, like, I have a red shirt on and I'm looking for someone who has a red shirt on, but everyone's got a purple shirt on. And I'm like, where's the red shirt people? You're not going to find them there. So you got to surround yourself with like-minded people. And if you're not putting yourself in those situations, you're not going to find people who share the similar values. Mary and Bryn, I love what you're saying about looking for looking for each other and looking for that hardworking value, right? Because that was something you saw within one another and said, we need to work more together because of that. And, just a couple of thoughts. I mean, so many people, I think, look for the wrong things when they're partnering with people, or they're not surrounding themselves with other people or other, women, men, whomever, that share the similar values. And that's really the most important thing. I mean, obviously marketing and who's better with numbers and all that stuff is so important, right? Skills and experience. But, values, you can't have different values. I just don't see how people make it in this business, partnering or any successful relationship, if they're not really on the same page with that, and have that open communication. So I think that's amazing that you guys kind of, had that, and then now you're building a business, which we'd love to get into. So you have a brokerage, you have fix and flips going on, you have Airbnb rentals, you have a lot of elements, right? That's a lot for. So I'm curious, how do you divide and conquer, right? So you got different parts of your business. I would be curious to learn a little bit. How do you both strategically operate your business with all those different elements?
We also do property management and leasing.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay. What do you do from 12 to 6 a.m.?
So I would say that each individual aspect of our business, we have a lead role. Mm-hmm. So let's take it from the top and just say how we use our license to make money. When it comes to the retail sellers and buyers, Mary's our lead role there. When it comes to leasing, I take over and I handle those clients. And then that turns into our property management as well, because many are repeat clients. So when we talk about how we use our license, it's very much Mary is working with our sellers. We probably
and investors.
Yes. So any seller, whether it's buying, and just really great at getting our clients into contracts. And then we kind of share the buyer role when the buyers come up.
Yeah.
But then again, I do the leasing as well as property management, and I lead our property management growing business. Then when it comes to the Airbnbs, that's my lead. Mm-hmm. And then we kind of zoom in on our investment business, our own investment business.
We're pretty involved there, but I think I have the relationship with the contractors. So I probably know more what's going on in the projects through the duration of the contracting. But like at any one given point, everyone's always informed. But like who, in terms of point people, that's pretty much how we divide it. And actually, it was only until about, I don't know, 2 months ago where we finally said, can we start dividing?
We tried.
We always tried, but this is very recent where we finally said, you know, leasing and management, Bryn, realtor projects, Mary. And the reason we had to is because we actually hired a full-time independent contractor. I don't want to use the word employee on our team. He actually is somebody, his name is Billy. He's been part of my life since he was 16 and he just turned 21. He was my first hire at the restaurant. And he was like a kid that I said, you know, he has really great work ethic and qualities and values as well. And he's a hard worker, and he went off to school and was realizing, you know, 2.5 years in, like this college thing is maybe not for me at this moment, and seemed a little bit lost and decided, hey, I'm going to take a semester off. Mary, can I keep working at Shoup's full time? Sure. Meanwhile, Mary and Bryn Real Estate is exploding and we could use a little bit of help. So he kind of started as, you know, just an assistant. And then his role just grew as he continued to take on more work. We said, okay, now you're just going to be our operations manager, and he's working for us full time. He's getting ready to take his real estate test to also be a full licensed broker with us. And when Billy really came on full time, that's when Bryn and I said, maybe we should start having some clear divisions so it's to not confuse him. Because if anyone ever tries to listen to our conversations, like my husband just like always makes fun of us because it's an ADD mess of a conversation. Like one conversation is actually like 12 little conversations. But Bryn and I, like we totally get it. Like we could have like 17 conversations at once and we still like, we comprehend everything. We're like, maybe not everyone operates this way. So we should, for other people's sake, make some clear definitions.
Yeah, I love that. I love that a lot because what you're doing is you're actually teaching your assistant how to, like you said, interact with the two of you. And, you know, when you have two cooks in the kitchen on everything, it's just disastrous, right? So I love that. I love how you kind of segue that and then move forward there. What were you doing prior? You said you did this recently. Like, how did you start as you?
Well, we tried a few times but it was almost like all in, you know, but here's the problem is that, or not the problem, we just weren't as big, right? So it's always great to have division and to understand our roles. But when we only have 2 houses at once, it's really easy for us to both be involved in everything related to that investment. And when we only have 5 real estate transactions, it's also really easy, you know, and we have had a crazy exponential growth in the last year, both in our investing as well as our real estate transactions. So now when we have 20 to 25 transactions at a time, we're going to own 6 houses by the end of the week. So the need for the division was even greater.
Great. So you guys talking about how you were able to scale your business. I'm curious to know what softwares, what systems, apps did you guys put in place that really helped you guys to automate and delegate the tasks?
Really advanced Google Drive. And it's what we still use, honestly. Like we have access to really high-tech back-end CRM software, but I'm all about keeping it simple. And I just appreciate the simplicity of Google Drive.
Amen to that. No, I'm glad you guys are talking about this as well, because sometimes folks that are starting the business and they think that they must have a lot of tools, paid tools to get things done. And that is not the truth. Sometimes the easier is the best thing to go. Majority of the apps that I use to manage the projects, to get things done, they're all free. The free version is enough. There's so many things out there available for free that you can easily customize to your needs. So I'm glad you guys are talking about it. Right now, how big is the team that you guys are managing?
So obviously Mary and I are full time, and then we have our we now call him our operations manager, Bill. We work with 2 contractors pretty exclusively.
Great.
And every once in a while we have some contractors sharing with other colleagues. And then it's just really about strong team members in every aspect of our business. You know, we have the go-to inspectors, the go-to stagers.
Lawyer.
Our attorney is huge. And, you know, anytime we can refer a client to him versus working with somebody else, we do. So our team is small. I mean, truly it's Mary, Bryn, and Billy. But we succeed in this business due to our strong contacts.
Absolutely. And how many rehabs are you guys doing at the same time right now?
We have 1 getting ready to be sold, 2 under contract to be sold, 2 on the market, 1 under contract, and we're purchasing 2 this week to then start.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And you mentioned those are going to be Airbnb?
No, that's the Airbnbs are then separate.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Those are just flips.
Oh, gotcha. So the flip part. Okay. Yeah. I mean, in terms of the Airbnb, I know Andressa's got a couple in Philadelphia. You know, in the years we've been investing, my husband and I, we've actually never done Airbnb, and we're actually considering it up in the Pocono area because my parents have a place up there, and it's just obviously it's growing, and there's a lot of vacationers going up there, and I'm like, this is a great place for an Airbnb. I'm curious, how did you navigate that as you guys, you know, bought some rentals? Was it, you know, I'm just curious as we talk about that segment.
Yeah, this is an interesting story because we don't actually own our Airbnbs.
Which is what I love most about it.
Yes.
Oh.
I had gone to a mastermind of other real estate investors, and I'm sitting in this mastermind, and we had someone talk about Airbnb in the Nashville market. And, you know, they specialize in helping landlords who need to fill those big buildings with leases, you know, and it was this entire presentation. I'm sitting here, I'm like, Mary and I have this apartment that we're leasing. It's in the apartment building I live in. It's actually the apartment I used to live in, but I moved upstairs when they had renovated that building. So it's this newly apartment building converted from condos, which is a great place to be in Airbnb. You working with condo associations, especially in Chicago, it's just not going to happen.
Yes.
You know, they don't want renters, let alone short-term renters. So the opportunity was in front of us. And I remember texting Mary, I was traveling, of course, was back in Ohio for an event. And I said, she couldn't answer my call. And I texted her and I said, we're going to get our 202 is going to be our Airbnb. And then we made it happen. So we are super lucky in the fact that I walk past the door of my Airbnb every single day to get to my own apartment. And it happens to be right next, like a 60-second walk to the entrance of Wrigley Field, the Cubs Stadium in Chicago. So,
oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yes. So we definitely have had a busy summer since we started with wonderful Cubs fans. Mary's family are White Sox fans. So as soon as we got the Airbnb, I go tell your whole family to buy some Cubs shirts.
Yeah.
So let me just clarify for people out there. So you can Airbnb your own place. So what the ladies are talking about, and correct me if you guys have a different structure. So you're leasing the property from the homeowner and then subletting, quote unquote, subletting or Airbnb in that. Is that correct?
That's exactly correct. And we definitely have a license to do it, and we have the right lease that our landlord is well aware of it. You get in trouble if you try to do this without permission.
Correct. Exactly. That is so important because I've seen people here that they're leasing the property and then they sublet or they Airbnb without informing the landlord. And that is a big no-no. I want to make sure that everybody that is listening, if you do the right thing and you communicate, nobody will care. If you're doing, you have the leases in place and everybody's aware, it's a win-win situation for everybody. You're doing everything legal, ethical, good to go. That's awesome.
And we also, to just help the owner make the decision, we do a 2-year lease. So we're like, hey, now you're not going to have any vacancies for 2 years on these units. And then we do a little bit of a premium on the rent. The numbers still make sense for us, so it becomes even more of a win-win when we tell them, like, hey, you don't have to pay any leasing fees to us, and you get this extended lease, and you're going to get a little bit more than market rent. So
Nice.
That's another strategy your listeners can implement
Great.
as well.
And you guys did like a market analysis, because I know that if you guys don't have the property rented, you gotta pay the lease regardless. So how did you guys define that was gonna be a great property to Airbnb?
Well, we used AirDNA as a where we can get that data, and talked to a couple other Airbnbers in our network, and they're just like, they said they wouldn't even think about it. They would just do it. The profit potential if the Cubs make it back to the World Series would be huge. So we definitely used AirDNA and just, messed with it. Went into the area, tried to book a room as if I was an actual Airbnber, which I certainly am when I travel, and looked at the rates, and we just played with numbers. What if we only get 50% occupancy at this rate on average for the whole year? Like, can we first break even? Mm-hmm. And then, okay, what's our likelihood of making money?
Yeah, that's awesome. This is, I don't know if you remember, Liz, that's what the email they just sent me.
Yeah.
A day ago.
Yeah, I know. That's so funny because it's funny you say that, because the Bigger Pockets, if you're a pro member, part of Bigger Pockets, they just sent an email about all these savings, and they're probably just trying to step up their their services to the pro members. One of the things in that list was AirDNA, and I'm like, I never heard of that. And I forwarded it to Andressa because I know she does Airbnb. But so for the folks listening, ladies listening, definitely check out, if you're a pro member, I know that there's some sort of saving. Yeah, there's savings for AirDNA, which is a clever name, by the way. So yeah, it's funny how the universe works, right?
There you go.
So Bryn and Mary, your story and all the things you have happening, we'd love to hear as you guys progress. It just sounds like you're only going upwards and just doing some really fantastic things together. So where can the ladies listening learn more about you both and just kind of stay? I know you guys have a great newsletter you send out. Like, how can ladies stay in touch with you?
Probably our website is like our first path. It's www.maryandbrynrealestate.com, all spelled out.
And then we are really good about using our brokerage branding for Facebook. So you can find our business Facebook page. It's just called Mary _Bryn Chase Real Estate. I think our Facebook page is almost gets you the fun updates about what's going on in our businesses.
So all of this information you guys can find on our show notes. Right now we're going to transition to our Fabulous 3. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
Awesome. What's the most transformational book you have ever read?
I think for us it's really been E-Myth and how to scale our business, and by we finally practicing it by hiring our full-time operations manager, is that we have to get ourselves out of the things that aren't generating income and are just taking up time.
That's a great book, for sure. The next question is, what's the most powerful routine you do to create a financially free and balanced life?
So we do Monday powwows. So that is when Bryn, Billy, and I get together every Monday and really zoom in and focus on every aspect of our business, update each other, and then delegate for the week. And then from there, we're able to then schedule out business-related activities and personal-related activities.
And I think it has, the here and now, the current investments, and then we're always looking for where our big long-term investments are coming from as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. The last question is, which woman, famous or not, has inspired you the most?
I mean, I think not famous, but I want to say it's probably our mothers.
Yeah.
We both have very strong moms who love what we're doing. They love to hear about everything we're doing together. Yes. We get text messages from both of them.
They are our biggest accountability people, where when they don't like what we're doing or whatever, like they are on us all the time.
They both, my mom's like ready for the day where she can stop working and just join our team. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, strong women coming from other strong women, and are fully supported by them.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, Bryn and Mary, thank you so much for your time and sharing all your insight and just the really cool path of partnership and all the things you're up to out there in Chicago. So thank you for making time to connect with us and our ladies listening.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks so much, ladies. We had a lot of fun.
We did too. Chat soon.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to receive updates on our next interviews, go to our website, therealestateinvestor.com. There, you can subscribe to our show, become part of our investor community, and get updates on upcoming episodes.
If you like our show, please share it with other women who would benefit. And don't forget to leave us a rating on iTunes. We'd really appreciate it. And as always, we encourage you to take one action as a result of today's show and put it into motion so you can live both a financially free and balanced life. Thanks for spending time with us.
Ciao.